mindful reality, which is reality TV from a mental health perspective. So I'm just here to give y'all a few quick thoughts on the Derrick Horacio elimination, which was controversial. And when I say controversial, I mean because of all the after the fact things that we have heard. Not because of the actual show. During the show, I was just confused. 1 minute. Sorry about that. Yeah, so during the actual episode, I was just confused because it just showed them standing there and then they were just looking around confused. And then it's like, Derrick, you are the winner. Okay, so then I see a tweet by Nerys about it, which was talking about production cheating and picking up Derrick's pegs for him when they fell out of the board, when they did not pick up the pegs for Horacio. And I was like, okay. And then I hear Horacio's account of what happened, and he spoke about the thing about the pegs. Basically, like, you put the pegs in the board, and when they were falling out, hi Marshall, when they were falling out of the board, he said that he had to pick up his own pegs. And then he said that production was picking up Derrick's pegs. That's one thing, right? So I guess he was saying he was losing valuable time, valuable seconds, where Derrick was not having to pick up the pegs that fell out, and he was having to pick up the pegs that fell out. The part of everything, though, because there's a lot of things that Horacio was saying, but the one thing that really stood out to me was that he was actually claiming that originally they told him that he won the elimination. Okay, I have to see if anyone else is saying that, but he actually said that production told him that he won and that he walked over to Derrick and he was just like, basically like, good job, you put up a good fight, you had a hell of a elimination, like it wasn't your day. They shook hands, and also Derrick, he didn't confirm that exact conversation, but he did say, I thought that I lost. There are so many discrepancies in what the two of them have said, but that's one thing that seems to have happened, at least. So he said that they were standing around for what was 40 minutes to an hour. I think that's what he said, like about 40 minutes to an hour. And they were trying to figure out, why are we still standing here? And I guess production, the refs and everything were coming together and they were having some long conversation about it, and came back to the table and was like, Big D, Derrick is the winner. And he said that, Horacio said that typically he's not a person to complain or say anything, but then he said that he asked TJ, like, TJ, what's up with that? TJ, I don't think this is fair. And then I guess the explanation that he got was just not acceptable for him. It was just like, it was the first person to get 40 pegs in the board. So the part that they are arguing about is it the first to just put your 40 pegs into the board and have them stick in the board? Or is it the first to put the 40 pegs in the board and it doesn't matter if they stick or not? And Derrick said that his instructions were just, get the 40 pegs in the board, don't worry. That's the only thing that you have to worry about on your end. And Horacio, his instructions were like, you have to get the 40 pegs in the board and they have to stick in the board. Now, if I'm just using common sense, it makes no sense for somebody to tell you that your rules are just that you have to put the pegs in the board and it doesn't matter if they stick in the board or not. That makes no sense, right? And I'm not saying that Derrick is lying or anything, but I'm just saying from a common sense standpoint, why would you make an elimination game where you stick pegs in a board and then it doesn't matter if they stay in the board? Because, okay, what if you fill the first row with all the pegs? All the pegs are filled out and they all fall out. How do you keep track? You go to the video replay and then you zoom in and you're like, oh yeah, these pegs used to be in here, so therefore this person won. Derrick makes the claim that he was ahead by a significant margin, but the jankiness of the board contributed to that missing peg that we see on the top right. So Horacio, I'm going to say this. I don't think that either Horacio or Derrick are lying. I just think that each of them are speaking from their perspectives, because it sounds like they were explained their versions of the rules separately. They were not like told together, this is what the rules are. I mean, they have the overall explanation of the rules that TJ gives, but it sounds like they were each given separate versions before they started with their boards, and separate things were being done. So Horacio can only speak on really what was happening on his board, and Derrick can only speak on what was happening on his board, and they're competing. So I'm sure they glance over at each other to see what the other person is doing, but you're in the middle of competition, so you're not really focused on that. And it sounds like, especially on the Horacio side, because he lost, and obviously the person who lost is going to be doing more of the digging. He spent time. He asked the female competitors that went against each other what was done for them, and then he asked the people who were in the stands watching the competition. He asked them what they saw from their perspective, and basically a combination of what was happening with him, the little glance of what it looked like was happening with Derrick, and then what he asked his fellow competitors, he felt like it was unfair. Now, I'm not here to say that he's right or he's wrong. I feel like each of them is kind of right in their own stance, because it's their point of view, it's their perspective. Ultimately, the people who messed up were production on the challenge, and unfortunately, due to that, we have a few things going on. We have the person who lost feeling like he lost unfairly. We have the person who won feeling like he's not getting validated for his win. Like, people are attributing him like, you and production cheated, even though he's just doing what they told him to do. And he's not like, oh, y'all make sure to pick up my pegs and put them back in the board and don't do that for him. Like, they're doing that. He's not doing that. So Scott from Challenge Mania suggested, if there's any time for the challenge to step in and to be like, our bad, this was on us, this would be the time. But I don't believe they've ever done so in the past, and I don't see them doing so now. So here we are. Unfortunately, this is where we're at, where multiple parties feel like an injustice was done, the winning party, the losing party, the people around them, and it puts some of the integrity of the game in question, and that's not a good thing for the franchise. But I feel like the franchise just feels like we are a no explanation franchise. That's just the history. Like, I've never really seen them come out and explain anything. Unless it's something that is outside of the game and is controversial. Now, the last thing I'm going to say, though, about Horacio is that he said that he's not coming back. He said that before anything aired. And I was like, why would he retire? Like, it seemed like he wanted to be a part of this game for a long time. I guess it's because of this. But I feel like all these guys who've been OGs and have been on the challenge for a long time, they all realize that sometimes Derrick always calls it the challenge gods. He's like, the challenge gods were on my side, or the challenge gods were not on my side. I feel like the newer generation just watched the produced product on TV and felt like everything was fair. And now looking at, like, let's say Narice's reaction on social media, I think they didn't really understand that even though they call this America's fifth sport, that's just a thing to say. It's not really a sport. So therefore, when they come up with these challenges for the elimination games, I feel like their main thing, honestly, is not necessarily the fairness of it. It's just like, let's make sure nobody gets injured. Let's make sure that it looks visually appealing for the fans. And that's about it. Like, it's not actually a sport. And it's not actually treated as a sport. So I feel a little bit like I understand why Horacio feels cheated and everything. But to say that you quit, everybody who's been on the franchise for long enough has these moments. Funny how on social media era, Funny how on social media era 1 and 2 people say Derrick won. Well, yeah, of course that's gonna happen though. But you know what? It's probably because, I mean, this is the thing. I feel like probably era 1 and 2 people who have experienced so many years of the challenge are like, I've been a part of fair and unfair results. It's just the nature of the challenge. And then I feel like era 3 and 4 people are more like, this has to be fair. Fairness matters. And I'm not saying that fairness does not matter, but I'm just saying that I've heard of, like, Johnny Bananas, and I've heard several people be like, sometimes the challenge actually just isn't fair. So we just have to go and deal with the elements that they give us. I've heard many of these guys talking about these behind the scenes things that have happened. I've heard many people talk about cheating, as they've called it, that challengers have done to win eliminations. But the cheating is like based on loopholes that, I don't know, the production didn't anticipate. I just feel like they don't, I don't know, like they probably feel like we can just edit this however we want to edit it. But now we're in an era, like I said, where people get on podcasts and Twitter and, you know, I'm going to give my version of the story. So now, even if they don't show it to us, we're going to have all these different people being like, hey, I was there and this is the way that it happened. And the next person is going to be like, well, I was there too, and this is the way that I saw that it happened. And it sucks a little bit as a fan. It probably sucks as a competitor. But I guess my final thoughts are just, if you're on the fan side like me, yes, we can talk about it this week, next week. I've heard that this current week we don't have a challenge episode because of the VMAs. But I wouldn't invest so much time being upset about the integrity of the games, because We're not the ones competing for $1 million. They are. I am not making $1 million from watching them on the show, no matter who wins or who loses. If my favorite person wins or my favorite person loses, my bank account stays the same. If you want to do anything, show some love to the person that you think deserved the win. Inbox them, tag them, whatever you want to do. Tag production on social media. Let them know. Let them know that you think that an injustice was done or if you think it's unfair. But just watch the show. Aside from that, just watch the show and just enjoy the fact that they were able to bring so many different eras together. Like, we're watching a huge span of competitors from way back when to like in the last few years. And I love that. And that's not going to taint the season for me to not like the season or to not watch the season. Listening to them talk about the conditions that they had to face, it's not going to make me like or dislike the season. That's their work environment. Sometimes people like their work environment, sometimes people hate their work environments, but I'm just a fan of the show. So my only job is to watch, enjoy. I will have questions to ask sometimes when things like this happen, but I'm already ready to move on and see what happens next. And that's my thoughts. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell to get notified of when I drop some more great content. And thank y'all for watching.